What is up, YouTube? Welcome back with another video. Hope everybody is well. Hope everybody is cracking on with their goals and dreams and with their fitness journey. Today we are going to explain a long year of mine that has passed, breaking down my phases that I've gone through, as some of you all asked for it on the comments of my last video here on my YouTube. So today we are breaking down the phases that I've gone through the last year, almost the last 11 months or so, explaining a little bit about the food approach that I've took on them, the training approach and the supplementation approach, and how, in my opinion, bodybuilding and fitness in general should be approached, and broke down in phases for each and every one of you. Not only competitors, but lifestyle people as well, trying to get on the best shape possible, or trying to have the best, trying to keep up with this process and approach it on the best way possible, while trying to have as well a degree of balance with their lifestyle and not get bored and not get tired with it. So, won't waste much time, let's get into it. The first phase that I did go through for the last year, it was a priming phase that lasted for 10 weeks. And to make it clear for you all, these are not phases that I do plan on getting this exact on time. So let's say this priming phase was 10 weeks, I planned it to be on the dot 10 weeks. I put a time frame within, like, let's say the time frame for this priming phase maybe would have been 10 to 12 weeks or 8 to 12 weeks, and we landed on 10. So for every phase I try to put a time frame so that I can land somewhere in between, but it can last longer, it can last less, depending on how my body responds and what comes in the way. So it's nothing on the dot, like I said before. So the first phase was my priming phase that lasted 10 weeks. Here what we tried to do was pulling down a little bit on the food and trying to clean the surface, I like to call it, in terms of the body fat percentages, getting down the body fat while getting down the food, as well as the supplementation, trying to get that body fat down, trying to reset the training in terms of execution, in terms of loads, and bringing fatigue down and everything. So this phase is more like a recomposition phase for my body, to prime my body, like I called it, priming phase, to prime my body for the upcoming phase, which was going to be a long one, which was going to be my growing phase. So after we finished this phase and got my labs in check, everything came out to be perfect, everything came out in spot, ready in a sweet spot to get going and joining into the next phase, which was my growing phase, planning to have a long growing phase. As we all know, growing muscle is a slow process and needs quite some time. After I got lean on this priming phase, because of my last off season that I got into 97 kgs, I was with our standards not on the best shape possible. I still had some lines, I still had my abs, but this, we don't call it lean enough having abs on this kind of standard. We need those lines to be whenever, and we need lines still on the fattest places of our body where we usually hold individually. So they seem to be soft. That's why we decided to pull back a little bit and join into my next phase. That was gonna be the growing phase, and to be having a long and productive growing phase, you need to be on a very lean position and be doing things slowly and properly. So for these 10 weeks, and I'm gonna say this as well, it might be interesting that I had no cheat meals, no free planned meals, just to make it a little bit more fun for you all, this conversation. Then I got into my growing phase, which was 20 weeks long. Here we aim to have an 18 to 24 weeks long growing phase, which I kept as well pretty clean, on the nutrition side. I think off-plan meals were pretty limited here. In 20 weeks I might have done around 7 or 8 off-plan meals. To be honest, I like staying on my plan, I like being locked in, and I don't like getting too comfortable with going off plan, as that's really uncomfortable for me. It's more comfortable for me to be on plan than to be off plan. So whatever, we did this growing phase for 20 weeks, which I ended up in a very good shape, growing like we aimed to. But I wouldn't stop because I was in a pretty good shape. I was pretty lean to still keep going even for 10 other weeks, not just 4 that we planned. So we wouldn't cut this phase until like 30 weeks of the growing phase, surely, because I was in a very, very good shape, very nice form. But the month of Ramadan came up, so we had to go into a holding phase, so we don't lose anything that we gained trying to keep up on the growing phase, and mess our blood work and mess, because it's not the best to keep going, to try and keep going when you are fasting. That's not the best way in terms of supplementation, training, food, anything would not be the best. On the growing phase, as I mentioned earlier, we started increasing the food to try and get our body weight up, alongside with our strength in the training, our performance in the gym overall, our recovery capacity, our supplementation. So everything here got into a peak food, peak supplementation. Even though this was a very productive growing phase and I didn't really abuse any of what I mentioned earlier, everything was in a sweet spot, and I would call it in a very, very low side of things with any topic that you want to think of. And that made it really fun as a process and really enjoyable. I didn't have any issues besides an injury that I had here, a type 1 muscle tweak on my chest. That was a mistake on my training. Other than that, I recovered pretty quick. Around 2 weeks I got back into normal again. But other than that, everything was perfectly fine. I'm pretty happy with how it went, and some small things to improve there that I'm improving on this growing phase that I'm gonna explain later. But overall, this was my best growing phase that I did comparing to the past, and by far the best one. Then I got into the holding phase, like I said, which was on Ramadan. Here we pulled the supplementation back a little bit as well, and the food, we kept it at the holding position, because we didn't want to drop any body fat, we didn't want to gain any body fat or gain any body weight. But it's normal to gain some body weight during this period because you are fasting, and some water weight will surely be gained if you don't pull down on the food. But we didn't call it wise to pull down on the food, because it's not the time that you want to do that, as then it will come hard to keep up with the performance in the gym. As that time, it's not the best to try and go hard on every single aspect. Here I pulled as well a little bit of frequency on my training days. On the training, I was training 4 times a week, 3-4 times a week here. 1 day on, 1 day off, instead of 3 days on that I was training before. 3 days on, 2 days off, 3 days on, 1 day off, 2 days on, 1 day off, and then repeat. So backed off a little bit on this case. Did this holding phase for 5 weeks. I holded the muscle very, very well, but some water weight was gained, like I said before. A little bit of a softer look was getting into the place, so we had to go into another priming phase, ideally, to get that off and start being fresh again, start getting the body used again to the routine and everything else. Before this priming phase that was after the holding phase, so after Ramadan, The holding phase was 5 weeks, to mention this as well. We did another blood work, full blood work check, full labs, which came out perfectly fine. This as well, even better than the first time. After this, then we joined the priming phase. That was 4 weeks long. No free meals here as well. It's free meals for me are something that doesn't happen really often. Before I used to struggle a lot because not because I couldn't keep myself back from them, but when I was doing them I couldn't control myself. I didn't have that self-control and I was going crazy on them and abusing them. So my trouble wasn't stopping myself from doing them, but whenever I decided to do them, I used to go crazy and abuse them. So working on this was very hard for me, but made it through, and now I'm pretty good. I can manage it pretty well. I just needed to get my mind in a spot where I'm okay with not being fully satisfied, as on this kind of sport you'll never be satisfied with the food and you'll never have a healthy relationship with the food, whatever you are trying to do. Because I have a pretty well structured diet plan, a pretty enjoyable diet plan, and I still don't feel satisfied to this topic. And I've tried all kind of diet plans, easy, hard, anything. I don't like making it too fancy, to be honest, because that gets then on my nerves, and it keeps me obsessed too much on the food, which I don't like, because food is just for function, it's just for energy, it's not a source of joy, and we don't want to look at it like that. So anyway, we joined into this priming phase, which was 4 weeks long. We cleaned up pretty quick. I didn't expect that at all, to clean this quick, because I planned on doing a priming phase for around 8 weeks. But seeing how my body responded so well and so fast made me cut this short and not waste any time, but go straight into my growing phase, which I am right now. My priming phase here was just keeping a little bit of an increase on the supplementation after the holding phase, but still keeping it pretty low because we just wanted to maintain, we did nothing else, and bring the body fat down. The food was lowered down a little bit. Supplementation, cutting phase supplementations were introduced slightly, some small things. Then now we got into, after finishing that, into the growing phase, which I am right now. The food has been increased from the previous phase. The supplementation has been slowly increasing and getting back into the previous peak that I did on the first growing phase that I mentioned, first long growing phase 20 weeks ago. Now we are running this growing phase, and we are on my growing phase week number 7 right now, joining from today actually, and we'll do this week and another week on this phase before we decide what we're gonna do next. We may keep this going for a little, or we may jump into another phase, but this we will decide after we see how the body is after we finish this phase. Everything's been going pretty well. This last growing phase has been my best one actually, even though it wasn't very long. But for the time being, it was so perfect, and whatever I had dealt with in terms of issues before, I fixed on this one. And the process is it's normal to be always having room for improvement. So I know what I can do better for my next growing phase as well. But for this last growing phase, I had no injuries. I had no obsession over analyzing the plan and creating stress on myself. I was pretty calm on it, even outside stress, in terms of work, in terms of anything else. I did manage it pretty well. I did get a little bit better onto approaching this sport with comparing it with being social as well, in terms of having to go and meet somebody and having to go and spend some time with my family. Of course, for me it's hard to follow off plan and try and be a normal human being, but I did my best. Nothing, this is bodybuilding. I wanted to get into here. This is bodybuilding though. 365 days. This my last year that I did all this priming, all these phases that I just mentioned. This is an actual real bodybuilding in my opinion. 365 days. So it's not 8 to 12 weeks prep. It's not 10 to 16 weeks prep, and then you do whatever you want the whole year. Whoever does bodybuilding in a good, exact, like strict way, he has to go through phases. And not even bodybuilding, but not only bodybuilding, but lifestyle goals as well. You have to go through phases, and you have to break down your whole year through phases. Even if that means one phase of the year to be just cooling down for you if you need it. So let's say 4 weeks you just need to cool down. Of course you don't have to abuse to cool down. You just can take a break by training 3 times a week, by having by being a little bit more reduced on the food, a little bit not feel shameful or not feel too strict and be unsocial. So you can have phases like this on your year if you wish to, and always if you need to. But of course, if you're trying to do it at an elite level and try and get the best out of it, you need to be a little bit obsessed, and you need to sacrifice something for it. So this is my year broken down in the phases, as somebody of you asked on my previous video. And lately, I've just changed my training split. Throughout this whole time, I've been just tweaking my training split, not changing something, but just tweaking it, and tweaking the rotations and tweaking the split itself around 3 times throughout this whole year. So as you can see, the changes in split are not very frequent because it's not very needed, as the split is not the issue why you're not growing or why you're not making progress. As long as you're making progress, you're enjoying it, everything feels fine, everything feels great, you don't need to change anything. So you can grow with almost any split, I would say, but everything will work till a certain point. Then you'll need to find out what's optimal and what will work best for you. Currently, I just changed my training split, and I'm going to do a video on this if you all want me to, and explain it on detail. And the food been increased from this week as well, but it's not the highest that it's ever been. Supplementation is higher than the previous growing phase, but not higher than it's ever been. Saying so though, I'm the biggest that I've ever been and strongest that I've ever been. And this is what's beautiful on this is that I'm feeling great. I don't feel heavy. I feel fresh joints, fresh bones. My mood is perfect, my energy is perfect, my mental state is clear, so everything is going very well, nothing to complain, and everything to improve. But we are very happy with how things are rolling. I would recommend to anybody that has struggle growing or struggle reaching their goals to have a time frame, like I mentioned, for their year, and plan things ahead. Of course, like I said on the beginning of the video, it's not meant to have everything on the dot, because it doesn't work like that. We don't want to go with pre-planning everything in detail, because that may change on whatever comes up to you. Like I mentioned earlier on the Ramadan month, like I mentioned for my injury that I had. So you just need to have a clear plan for yourself, and plan things ahead, but you don't want to stick to it that strictly and not change anything without being open to seeing how your body will react and will respond, and creating the next phase or your next move based on that. So that would be my recommendation for anybody that's trying to reach their goals and trying to get the most out of their fitness journey. Try to break down the phases for yourself, or if you don't know, if you're not sure how to do this, try and reach out to somebody that you trust and you believe in his knowledge to help you with that. If any of you all want to join my coaching team, I'll take care of you all for whatever you need on this case, and take care and try to get the best version of yourself. For me, whoever is on my team knows that on my team we are like a family, and my clients' goals are my goals, and we try to reach them together. We try to grow in and outside the gym, not just on this process but outside of this as well, and we try to make and create the best amount of balance for them to be not only the best athlete they can be, but the best family member they can be, the best to be the best person they can be at their work. So whoever wants to reach out for my coaching plan and coaching requires can hit me up on my Instagram or on my TikTok whenever he has it easier. I'll put it down on my description, all of that, so you can find me out there. So this was for today, guys. I hope everybody found it helpful, liked it and enjoyed it. If you did so, please drop a like, drop a comment, share it, click the subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. And if you all want to keep me if you all want me to keep going with these videos and have anything in particular that you want to see from me, that could be training tips, that could be any video like this breaking down my process, my own process, or recommending what to do for you all to try and get the most out of your own processes, or training video you want to see from me. I guess I'll be explaining my new split soon, or maybe doing a separate video on each and every day. So let me know as well on that, what would you like to see. That was for today, guys. I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope it was helpful, and until next time, I'm out, and I hope everybody keeps on cracking on with their goals, and don't forget, never be weak. Weakness is a choice.